join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Glad everyone's come out to see us this evening. I always have to make sure if my machine is working properly. Most of the time it isn't, so I had to give it a double check. Let's go now to the approval of the minutes of February the 4th, 2020 regular meeting. Please have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Wilkerson made the motion. Mr. Baker seconded that. Is that an all yes vote?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we're down to public comments. We don't have anybody signed in, do we, Mr. Kenny?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. That would be for those people who aren't on our agenda but choose to speak to the board. You can always come in before the board meeting and sign in to speak. So that's just for future reference. The only difference in that and being on our agenda is you get to speak, but we really can't communicate back and forth. But you're always able to do that if you wish. Okay, that brings us to the public hearing. So the next item on the agenda, I want to give a little brief introduction, and Mr. Midkiff's going to take over. But we're at that time of year where we're beginning to look at our school calendar for next school year, for the 2021 school year. And those of you who have an agenda, you would find in there a copy that's in there, Mr. Midkiff, for everybody to see, of the proposed calendar that's been developed. Now, we're required to have a couple of open public hearings to receive comment about the proposed calendar. So the first of those is going to occur tonight, and then we will have another one on March the 3rd. For those that aren't able to see, aren't going to be able to see it here, it'll be on our county website, and also it'll be advertised in the Lincoln Journal for those that might have access, want to see access to it there. As far as the actual approval of that, we're receiving comments once again. Tonight we'll receive comments for anyone that has any comments. If you look there and want to give it, you're welcome to do that. And then on March the 3rd will be another open meeting where we will receive comments about the proposed calendar. And then later in the year, I don't know when, about in June or so.
Sometime in April.
In April?
Yeah.
Okay. And then in April, we will actually finalize and approve our agenda and submit it to the State Department for approval. But I'll let Mr. Midkiff take over from here.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Priestley. So board members, I provided you with a draft copy of the 2020-21 calendar as well as this current year's school calendar. And my lovely assistant Angie is going to also display the draft 2021 calendar for me. Our committee, we met 2 or 3 times. Didn't take long. There's so many stringent guidelines on how you build a calendar. There's not really a whole lot of heavy lifting goes into its development. You'll see when you compare this draft calendar for next year.
Where, Mr. Big? Yeah, okay, Mr. Plum, you'd like to turn those lights on. There you go.
Is that better? If you'll look at this current year's calendar and our draft calendar, you'll see that they're very similar. When we build a calendar, we actually start by looking at graduation, because that's become an annual event that we hold graduation in County High School on the Friday of Memorial Day weekend. So we start with graduation in mind and work our way back. So for next school year, this calendar is approved. We'll have graduation here on Friday, May the 28th. And you can see that the last day for students is June the 2nd, provided that there's not any days that have to be made up for loss of instruction. This calendar brings our employees back 4 days, and students, 4 days later than this current year. This year's calendar, we came back on August the 9th, employees did. Next year, it'll be on August the 13th. You'll notice too a difference that we have 3 CD days at the beginning of this calendar and our preparation day. And the rationale for putting the additional CD day at the beginning of the calendar is because of all the required trainings that we have to provide our employees now. There's just not enough time with 2 CD days at the front of the calendar to get all the training in. And teachers want to have time to be able to get in their classrooms and prepare for the students' return. So we've added an additional day up front to give us more time. Something else that drove the development of the calendar this year was Christmas holiday falls on a Friday this year. I can't remember the last time Christmas was on a Friday. So we had to kind of work back from here it is, Christmas back 2 days for a professional learning day, which would also be a faculty senate meeting day for our staff. But the break is roughly still the same length next year as it was this current year. The PL days, when we schedule those in there, we schedule them around federal holidays. This professional learning day here on October the 12th is Columbus Day. And the February 15th professional learning day is President's Day. All right, Angie, maybe help me here. This, we got, the reason the spring break is where it's on the calendar is because we found out already that the SAT school day assessment is on April the 13th next year. So the committee had discussed, about having spring break the week of April the 5th, because Easter next year is on April the 4th. And then past years, we've had spring break after Easter holiday. However, if we had moved the spring break forward a week, when the students came back from break, our juniors would have turned around 2 days later, or actually a day later, and would test. And we didn't think that was a good thing for us to do, so we backed it up. Any questions so far? There is an election next year, general election, November 3rd. Angie, am I leaving anything out? The test window for grades 3 through 8. That was also part of the decision making too. I don't know if you have those dates or not.
I do, and it runs through up to May 28th, but it's April. April 5th through May 28th.
Okay, so which is right after we come back from our break. The window opens, not that we'd be testing that early, the opportunity to do that. So the first employment day would be the 18th of or the 13th of August. And then the first day for students' instructional term would begin on August the 19th. The second month would end on October the 7th, and that's the date for our submission of our enrollment. It's an important month, as we've learned. The last day of the first semester would be January the 12th. And the last instructional day, if we don't have to make it up for any inclement weather, would be June the 2nd. And the last day for our employees, June the 3rd. So we have tonight's hearing. 2 weeks from now, on March the 3rd, we'll have our second required hearing. Calendar's already posted, right, Angie? You already have it on the county website. And Sean will get it to you. Angie, can you send it to Sean electronically?
Yep.
And we'll take comments on the calendar up until, I'm going to say around the 1st of April, that the board will need, you will need to approve this calendar so that I can turn it around, or Angie and I can turn it around and get it to the State Department for approval.
Mr. Speaker, if I want to ask a question, I think I know the answer to it, but I want you to. We're, once again, next year proposing that we do not have any early outs, and we instead have the PL days built into our calendar to do that. Could you explain that for everyone?
Yeah, as last year we moved to full-day PL days. That was an option to the board because we are banking an additional 30 minutes of instructional time every day at all 8 of our schools. So that gives us that luxury of being able to do so. As you know, when we have 2-hour early dismissals for faculty senate meetings, those are days when attendance is not good. It's poor. So as a means to try to avoid those kind of situations where attendance now counts against us as for accountability purposes, we've made the decision that instead of those being 2-hour early dismissals for faculty senates, we would just make those day-long professional learning days. So if we have staff development for teachers or service employees, we can do that in the morning and allow faculty senates to meet in the afternoon, or vice versa. We're flexible in terms of what that looks like. But that was
Have we found this year that attendance has been better because of this?
our attendance overall, because Mr. Pritchard, our attendance director, was talking about this the other day, is just a little ahead of where we were at this time last year.
I mean, on these particular days, we really
The
don't have a way of
attendance, I
comparing
wouldn't be
those.
able to give you a hard number here this evening.
Curious.
We can look at that.
I just,
Which we have some teachers here who maybe could speak to that. Is attendance better?
I think so.
okay, now, the faculty senate days, how many faculty senate meetings are required?
There are 6 faculty senate meetings each year. So you have one on that first preparation day. It's required that it occur on the P day. And then the next 4 are all professional learning days. And then the last faculty senate meeting is on the last P day. And again, that's in statute. Those 2 happen on the P days, preparation days.
But the others are built into the PL days?
Yes. And the guidelines tell you what months that those faculty senate meetings are to occur. So there's not a whole lot of flexibility there either when those happen.
Anybody have any other questions or comments about that?
Just in looking at this, in the event of inclement weather, how many days do we have between, say, December and June 4th for makeup days? I only see 2 out of service days.
Well, all the OS days, so there's 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. Am I missing one?
I only see 2 though between December and the 3 that are back June 4th, 7, and 8.
OS days, so that would be on
I guess, I see more.
February the 12th, February the 26th, March the 15th, June the 4th, June the 7th, June the 8th. Also, you could use the professional meeting day, that green day there right before spring break would be an opportunity to make up lost day of instruction.
So we have 4 days without extending the school year.
There's 7 days in there
Without extending the year?
without extending the school year.
But you have June 4th, 7, and 8. Those are out of service days already, right?
Right. I see where you're going.
Yeah, I mean, if you
But
borrow
those-
one of these to make up another day, that extends the school
Right,
year,
that's
but the kids
true.
aren't gonna be in school on June
Right.
4th otherwise.
Right, you're right.
And my concern there is obviously, and we caution people not to do this, not to make vacation plans based on this calendar, because we don't know what weather's gonna be like.
Right.
But invariably, people will have vacations starting that weekend. And if, God forbid, we get into a situation where, you know, we need that 5th day, it has to come from there, it's the only place it can come from, right?
That's correct.
Well, the one day is on a Friday, so the weekend would be
Mhm.
available. But, you know, some point, we have to say, this is it.
And you do try to maximize, your opportunities to make up for lost instruction. And we'll get into that a little later here today, or this evening, when we get into administrative items, looking at makeup days. The groundhog predicted an early spring. He didn't say anything about it raining every day. So kind of made it a little more challenging. Last week was tough, so.
Generally, I like the calendar. We've been consistent the past several years on our calendar. We try to keep, for those that make vacation plans when they leave in August for next year, that they can pretty much do that. And we try to be consistent as well as much as we can. I know there are those that want to start after Labor Day and end by May the 30th, like they used to in the olden days. And I remember those days. But when we did that, we didn't have Thanksgiving break. We didn't have a long Christmas break, and we didn't have any spring break. So somewhere, I think we've become accustomed to those things, but that's a trade-off, what you'd rather have. But I know when I first started teaching, we came in after Labor Day, and I recall Thanksgiving week that we went to school on Wednesday, and at that time they would allow you, we got to go home at noon because the women now had to go home and cook a turkey. I don't think you can get away with that today. We can say that Mr. King cooks turkeys all the time. But things, that discussion has gone into the legislature and about having a shorter year like it used to be and all. But I think we've become so accustomed to these breaks that we have now. Like Thanksgiving break, what we found was we had so many, not only staff, and drivers, bus drivers, but students that want, they go hunting that week. Well, guess what your attendance is like? It's terrible, and also the trade-off of that, it would be very difficult to overcome if you didn't have that any longer, because we'd see what we saw back then. People went anyway.
Educational leave.
Yeah, whatever it took. But, I think this is a good compromise, and we've become accustomed to it. Anything else from anybody in the audience have any comments at this time? I know most of you haven't really had a chance to look at it, but now, like I said, it's on our website, it'll be in the paper, and on March the 3rd, we'll be welcoming any comments anybody has. Okay? Thank you, Mr. McGill. Okay, now we're going down to presentations and reports, and these are individuals who have gotten on our agenda to speak to us. And we can talk to you and speak back, or you can answer questions or ask either one. So first is Tammy Igo. Miss Igo, volleyball.
Volleyball, I'm back.
Well, looks to me like they turned the lights off on you.
I just talk anyway, it doesn't matter.
Kind of scared me there for a minute. I thought the power went out.
All right, assuming it's not music,
You know,
but,
we went to college together,
I
so
know.
it's on you.
I am back about volleyball, and I appreciate, like, I've got parents and players here, so I really appreciate them coming. Here's the thing, we've moved to a AAA school, or, AAA rating, and our girls are already had a deficit, now we have even more of a deficit. In our sectionals, we have Cabell, Midland, Huntington, Hines, Spring Valley. All of those schools start playing volleyball in 6th grade. My girls pick up a ball in 9th grade. And we just can't compete. We cannot be competitive. We can play and hopefully have a good time doing so, but we're not competitive. And then the surrounding counties, Cabell, Wayne, Putnam, Kanawha, Logan, they all have middle school sports. To my knowledge, volleyball is the only active sport at the high school that doesn't have a feeder program. We have a place to have golf. We've not had golf 2 or 3 years. And like I said, to my knowledge, I'm the only sport that does not have a feeder program. And that's got to be changed. It's just got to be. When I came before, Mr. Linville came to talk to me about middle school ball and the fact that it didn't fly. And some of the logistics, I think, was the equipment. I have a solution for that. He mentioned also there were principals who did not want another sport in their school. That's a shame. I hope that that's not so, because to me that is like me saying, I'm gonna teach, I'm only teaching until 3:30, and I'm never gonna grade a paper outside my classroom. When you take that job as a principal, you take what comes with the job, and that's supervising after school. But even so, here's the logistics. Middle school ball plays up to 16 games a season. That's the most they can play. So you're talking 8 at home and 8 away. Almost all administrators have a vice principal, or in Guy Valley's case, they have a dean of students. So we're talking 4 days for each adult to supervise, 4 games, that's it. And volleyball's a quick game, it's about an hour and 15, depends on your opponent. So I hope that would not be a determining factor in, covering after school. Kayla Schaefer was supposed to be here. Kayla Schaefer's daughter has been in the hospital for about 4 days. So she won't be on, she's not here, but she gave me a letter. Am I permitted to read it? I gave it to you all.
Whichever you choose.
Okay, and this is, her proposal is Special Olympics Unified Sports, and she's going to talk about it in her letter, and I'm going to follow up with it. She says, I want to apologize for my absence. She has a family illness, and that's her little girl. I'm writing to discuss the possibility of a countywide unified volleyball program that would include all 4 middle schools within our county. As some may know, Lincoln County now has an accredited Special Olympics program. We've been working very hard the past couple of years to build a program and give all athletes a chance to shine. We continue to host our spring games county event in May for our athletes age 8 and older. At this event, our athletes compete in running, ball toss, hula hoop. Some of the Special Olympians have gone on to participate in several state events such as basketball, cheer, bowling, and bago. I honestly don't know what that is. I don't have a clue.
Cornhole.
Is that what it is? Okay. I'll
I
look.
figured it is.
So she says, we are interested in building a program that would ensure meaningful inclusion for our athletes with special needs while allowing all athletes in our county a competitive edge. Special Olympics International designates a category for unified athletes, which are typically performing peers who play alongside Special Olympians on a team. Unified volleyball would allow all athletes, regardless of their cognitive abilities, to compete. The program would allow Special Olympian to play during regular season on the school team, as well as create the opportunity for our team to compete at a Special Olympics state volleyball event. I'm proud to say we have partnered with the Office of Special Education to ensure that this opportunity can be made available pending board approval. Any costs for Special Olympics sanctioned events will be paid from the Lincoln County Special Olympics account, which is funded through donations and fundraising. Apart from our work with Special Olympics, we've made great strides toward inclusion of all students, especially at the high school. We want to model our work at each of the middle schools. This would be done by allowing unified volleyball programs to be started at the middle school level. In addition to meaningful inclusion, the Unified Sports Handbook outlines other key benefits of unified sports, and she lists them, and I have a packet that has this in it as well. You can read the rest. To me, this is a win-win situation, and I'm really excited about it. From my understanding, talking to Kayla, they will pay for the equipment for all 4 middle schools. They're going to put the nets in, they're going to put the ref stuff, the stand in, and the net and everything. And you all have, I don't have it, but I gave you a picture of a net program, because I know some question was, do we alter the floor? This is a system that you just roll in and out, and I've seen those systems at schools. So they roll out, you put up your net, and you take it down and you roll it back into storage. If there is a school that has the sleeves, then we can buy that appropriate stuff. But I know Guy Valley doesn't have sleeves. I would assume Harts, but I don't know, because I haven't been in their gym. But anyway, so there's no damage to the school. This is a portable program. It can be used, gym classes could use it to do a unit on volleyball, because if you don't have the equipment, you can't even do a unit on it. So really, there's not any expense as far as that goes. The expense the board would have would be the coaching salaries, which is probably around $5,000 if I did it correctly for all 4 schools. You have just and I highlighted some stuff, because I'm excited about this. What you would do is you would put 3 volleyball players when you go to Special Olympic Games, it wouldn't be during season games, and 3 Special Olympians. And they would compete at the state level. And in the packet, it says the regular, I won't say regular, but it's the athlete who plays the sport is not to interfere with the Special Olympian, but just kind of be there as a buddy. In fact, on Special Olympic sports, the Special Olympic student is the athlete, and the other athlete is the partner. So it gives another way for it. To me, it's taking inclusion even a step further, because now you're getting them out of the classroom, you're getting them on the court. It's a win-win situation for all of our kids. There's a statement that says that all of our constituents have the right to participate fully in their diverse communities. Needed supporters should be available and affordable, or need support so that each individual with disabilities can live, learn, work, and play with others who do not have disabilities. And unified sports increases public awareness of the spirit, skills, and abilities of individuals with intellectual disabilities. The opportunities often lead to improved sports skills, a higher self-esteem, equal status with peers, and new friendships. And I gave you, this is from the Special Olympics Unified Sports Team packet, and you all have that, you can peruse it, but I just kind of started the ones that I thought were really important. And then, there are many benefits, and I know that there's not one of you who are going to say that sports or any activity after school does not benefit our Lincoln County students, because they're less likely to get in trouble, they're going to come to school, they're going to have better grades. If you have every middle school, you have 16 girls, and that's probably a low figure, because typically, and that's with including your Special Olympic athletes. And then you may have another little girl who wants to do book, and you may have another little girl who wants to be a line judge, or who wants to do a libero tracker, be a manager. So we're talking, you may have 20 girls at each school. So we are taking care of 80 female students if we have a team of 20 with all that comes with volleyball, and the manager and the bookkeeper and everything. So that's 80 girls who are being watched over and making connections. And then you have the added benefit with a Special Olympic athlete with their peers, and they're playing together and they're learning together. And then you have more family involvement. It's just a win-win. If we have a way to have this equipment bought for us through Special Olympics so that they can compete at a different level, I don't know why it wouldn't fly. It's just, every school has a team. You want to have more family involvement, you're going to have better communities. You're going to have kids who want to come to school. But is there any questions that you all have for me? I try to put everything in your packet. I have the equipment that would be purchased. You can buy shirts for as little as $10. So I just pulled a page out of the catalog. Kayla knows more about the unified sports than I do. I've read everything, but she could, and she's very, very passionate. She's as passionate about her Special Olympic kids as I am about volleyball kids, and together we're going to have a good program.
Well, do you think you'd have a problem getting anyone to coach?
I don't think so. Quite honestly, my only school would be Duval. I've been to all the other schools. Mrs. Patton did not want me to come. I'll just tell you how it is. I have people at Hamlin who have contacted me and said, I would love to coach. Guy Valley, I have people. Hearts, the gym teacher, had told me she would want to be the coach. And I honestly don't know anything about Duval.
I know that Harts, was it been about 3 years ago we had this conversation?
Yes.
I know there was a lot of interest. That's when Debbie Dingus was a principal. I think she had 40 girls.
I had a bunch at Duval, because the athletic director got the interest and sent me the names. But I went to the other 3 schools, and I took my volleyball girls, and they talked to them, and there's interest. I mean, in volleyball, you can play a sport with 10, 12 girls. It's not like other teams.
Fall sport, right?
Yes, it's a
Fall
fall
activity,
sport.
right.
Mhm. And right now, the fall sports really, and our sports are, it's different from when we were in school. Now it's like cheerleading, you have boys and girls on your team, and it's just different.
Now, are you saying that volleyball has boys and girls?
No, not West Virginia, in
Okay.
some of the bigger cities, but there's not really a fall sport that's just for girls right now. Soccer,
But it is exclusively for girls?
it's just for girls. Men, or boys cannot participate in West Virginia unless they're participating with a team with boys. You have to have equal
Okay.
teams.
Is this an SSAC sanctioned sport?
That's a good question.
Okay. Is there
The
a
Special Olympics,
Well, like the SSAC that oversees
well, I know
athletics?
that, but I don't know that SSAC has anything to do with Special Olympic sports.
Well, I'm talking about, you're talking about
Oh,
having
with
middle
mine.
school teams. I'm not
Yes.
talking about.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Mhm.
Okay. Is there a minimum number of players that you think would to justify having a team?
I would say 10.
Just to use
Mhm.
in order to-
Because you can have your setter usually doesn't leave the floor. And you can also, so if you have a really good player, play all the way around.
It doesn't take them now, huh? Now, you say there's 16 games in a season. When are the games typically played? What days of the week?
Tuesdays and Thursdays typically.
I'm sure they're long on weekends.
No, that's only if there's a tournament that you want to go to, but those aren't mandated.
Okay.
Tuesdays and Thursdays, middle school ball's usually at 5, high school ball's usually at 6.
Okay.
So we're out, at high school, we're usually out at 8 unless, sometimes you do a tri-match, especially, I play some teams who don't have JV teams. So when you play those and you have people traveling, you try to get 2 teams on one night. Because if you travel, like if you travel from Point Pleasant, you just don't want to play an hour and then turn around. So we try to have 3 schools.
How do your kids travel now?
On a bus.
Okay. So as far as you would just have more people on the bus?
Mhm, yeah.
As far as the schools that you play, now, are those already pretty well designated who would compete against, the same ones that the high school plays? I guess depends on if they have a volleyball team too.
Right, right. The middle school, thing with middle school, well, they can play, if we had 4 teams, they could play each other. There's nothing that says they don't.
Right.
And then everybody around us, they could, Hurricane has it, Hurricane High has it, Poca has it, Winfield has it, Huntington High, Cabell, or Milton Middle, not Huntington High, but Huntington East, Huntington West. But there's just, they would not have to travel very far.
I mean, you're envisioning though that each school is going to set up their own schedule.
Right.
Is that correct?
Mhm.
But that would be up to them, but it makes sense that they would play one another.
Right.
Do you have anything else?
Boone and Logan counties, do you know if they have?
Logan does.
They do.
Mhm.
Out of curiosity, what does the umpire or referee, what do we pay them?
In middle school, I'm not sure. I think hours are between 70 and 90, depends on if you do 2 games, 3 games, that kind of stuff, yeah. Usually, like, the revenue from tickets have always been able to pay for the officials. I mean, you're not gonna get rich, you know, and we do fundraisers when we wanna buy stuff, but if you can pay for the officials or the concession stand, the officials can be paid for tickets and concession stand usually.
How many officials do you have? 2?
2, an up ref and a down ref.
All right. Thank you. I think that's all the questions we have.
Thanks.
The next person that wanted to speak is Brandy Sanders, and let's talk about volleyball.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise.
Good evening. As the parent of a 6th grader who's interested in volleyball, I would like to see you strongly consider and support the establishment of volleyball programs. In addition to needing a feeder school in order for the high school team to be successful, I would like to see the children of Licking County have the same opportunities as other counties around us. In preparation to speak with you this evening, I checked with the schools in 7 of the counties that surround us. So Boone County has 3 middle schools, 3 volleyball teams. Cabell County has 4 middle schools and 4 volleyball teams. Kanawha County has 13 middle schools and 13 volleyball teams. Logan County has 3 middle schools and 3 volleyball teams. Mingo County has 6 middle schools and 6 volleyball teams. Putnam County has 4 middle schools and 4 volleyball teams. And Wayne County has 6 middle schools and 6 volleyball teams. While some of these districts obviously have more resources, several have very similar demographics to Lincoln County. Volleyball programs can be started and maintained with cost that is minimal in comparison to other programs. Additionally, research shows us that children who are involved in extracurricular activities have higher self-esteem. better academic performance, are more likely to stay out of trouble, and less likely to drop out of school. Volleyball would be another opportunity for students to find their place within their school and their peers. In recent years, the board has voted to approve additional sport offerings at the middle school level. Hamlin and Harts have both had wrestling programs. Golf was briefly considered. Middle school cross country and track and field have both seen tremendous growth and success, which has directly impacted the programs at the high school. Many of these students choose to participate in these programs at the high school level as a direct result of participating on middle school teams. One could arguably say that many would not have participated at the high school level had it not been for middle school opportunities. The most significant of the middle school additions has been soccer. All 4 middle schools have been able to field full teams, which has provided them the chance to play teams beyond Lincoln County's borders and challenge them to play opponents that they will likely meet on the field as high schoolers. The establishment of middle school programs has directly impacted the both high school programs. This past year alone, a 10th grade Lady Panther smashed the all-time scoring record and made first team All-State. This could not have been accomplished without feeder programs. That is what middle school opportunities foster in high school programs. A sense of teamwork, a sense of belonging, gaining a competitive edge in upper grades, and improvement of playing skills. It also gives students another opportunity to find their place within their school, expand their experiences, and perhaps find the hook that not only allows them to find athletic success, but also academic. And I prepared this graphic for you. Yes. I turned out all right.
Ready?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ann. Next is Shelby White. And she's going to talk about volleyball too.
Okay, so I am the assistant coach, and so mostly what I have may seem a bit repetitive, so I apologize for that. My name is Shelby White, and I serve as the high school teacher, the high school home teacher, and the assistant volleyball coach. I've had the privilege of working with Mrs. Igo and the girls for the last season, and I'm looking forward to the next one to come. My volleyball girls remind me a lot of myself when I was their age. We have similar taste in music, sense of humor, and shared adoration for athletics, volleyball in particular. One difference I can think of, however, is the missed athletic opportunities they were given as opposed to myself. So I grew up in Cabell County. I participated in just about any sport that you can think of, starting with t-ball, starting in 6th grade, it was volleyball, basketball, track, all the way through 12th grade. So that's just what I'm used to, and that's one reason that I coach, and that's one reason that I enjoy it. And volleyball was my favorite. So coming from a AAA school, and then teaching and coaching and, making that transition to a AA school, I first-handedly witnessed some of the disadvantages my students and players have been given, particularly the fact that our girls are not given the opportunity to play middle school ball. This automatically sets them 3 years behind any team we play, seeing as Brady said, every other single team that we play that we're playing have middle school experience. So they're starting 6th grade and our girls are starting 9th grade. So this means our girls have to work at least 3 times as hard to even be at the same skill level as their competitors. So volleyball is, and we will continue for it to be, a growing sport in Lincoln County. There's an obvious interest in the sport, considering this season was the first time that Coach Igo had to make cuts during our tryout period. Even after the cuts, we kept 20 athletes, which is a large team. Thankfully, Coach Igo was finally appointed assistant coach to help manage such a large team, which grew our program even more. Additionally, we were able to gather, 7 wins this season, which again, given the circumstances of no middle school experience, is an accomplishment for us and yet another improvement and proof of growth countywide in this sport. It only makes me wonder if we were able to make such improvements in just a couple seasons, what can the future look like? How many more athletes can this sport impact? What lessons can be taught through this sport? What kind of relationship and leadership roles can be learned? And why in the world would we refuse any of this positivity? However, this upcoming season, we will be moving to AAA. And to be honest, when I first heard this news, my heart sunk a little bit, maybe a little nervous. We had a good season this year, and I think that really helped boost our girls' self-esteem. But next season, we will be playing schools. I know Midland is double the size of what we are, which is probably the largest, and all of which have access to middle school play. As happy as I am to see this sport moving in the right direction, deep down I know that this will be an even more challenging season for our girls. Coming from experience as someone who played AAA ball, there is a huge deficit between AA and AAA, which only puts our players at even more at a disadvantage. Our girls not only want to play, but they want to be successful and be good at what they do. The fact that we are going to AAA on top of missing 3 years of experience makes it hard for our girls to even stand a chance in the upcoming season and seasons ahead. As a coach and sports advocate, I do not want our players to lose interest in a sport they are so passionate about, simply because their county is serving them an injustice. Offering middle school volleyball is one thing that will give our girls a fair shot at competing, and why would our youth in Lincoln County not be worth that shot?
Thank you, Mike. Okay, now, do I understand that, Sandra Schaefer is
Yes.
season, is that correct? Okay, well, I guess that concludes everything. What we will do next is, of course, this is something that would be part of our, budget for next fiscal year. And, what we do, actually, here in a couple of days, we're gonna have a special meeting where we begin to look at our budget for next year. So I'm sure this will be something we'll discuss during that meeting. I also think Mr. Mickey will probably be talking to the principals to just get any input they may have. And then we'll just kind of go from there. Should we decide to do that, that would be something I envision we'd probably do in April or May or something, because once again, we're just preparing for July the 1st when the new fiscal year starts. So as we prepare our budget for next year, we would have to, if we want to have that in there, Mr. Ellis, our treasurer, would have to, allocate funds for that to be done. So there's a little time here, and it's good that you all came early because we are getting ready to start on our budget for next year. So you've made some good points tonight. I think all of our questions have been answered. We'll just I'll keep our fingers crossed. Thank you for coming. All right, we're going to, y'all may stay here if you want, but we're going to go on to another topic. Okay, Mr. Ellis is not here today, is he?
Yeah, we're gonna reschedule him for next week, he had a sick child.
Okay, I thought he was there. Is there? There. Don't be scared. Give that to your dad for me. Thank you. I don't want him to get up. I don't want him to get up. He's getting old.
Yeah, he's getting old.
No, he's got a lot of papers and things there. Okay, let's go on to the administrative section. Have a motion? Mr. Baker. And Ms. Smith, second that. Mr. McKidd.
Item A is adoption of instructional materials policy 2510. Susie first put that on the agenda, it had me kind of sideways, because when I saw that policy 2510, I'm thinking about the state board policy. Kevin had to explain it to me. We have a county policy, 2510. So that is our county policy of instructional materials. All right, item B, school volunteers who on occasion may also serve as bus chaperones for athletic events, academic competitions, or school outings and have completed volunteer orientation. Item C, according to the provision of County Policy 8210, school calendar, from West Virginia Code 18-5-45, the following revisions to the 2019-2020 school calendar are approved as a result of school cancellation for extreme weather conditions. We were out February the 7th for snow, and the very first available day to make up for that lost day of instruction was an OS day on Friday, February 28th. We were out last week for water, for flooding. The first available day that we could use to make up for that lost day of instruction is Monday, March the 2nd, which happens to be a curriculum development day. And since this agenda was sent out, made public, I've heard from several of our administrators that they had training planned for that day. We've got summative assessment training, and we have leader in me training in one school. So our administrators have asked the board to consider, instead of using March the 2nd, go to the next OS day, which is March the 20th. So instead of making up the day on March the 2nd, we would make up February 13th on March the 20th. Now that limits, that's one less,
Friday.
yeah, that's one less opportunity to make up for lost instruction, but that still leaves us 4 days after March the 20th that we could tap into if we needed to.
That's Friday the 20th.
Is that okay with everyone?
Well, if they've made plans, I'm glad they're doing that. That's just like our PL days where we wanted to do that, give our administrators and central office people, they could make plans to use it, so it'd be good.
Did you say it narrows down 4 days?
Where it leaves us with 4 days. Still, the county will make up the lost instruction, so.
That'd be a.
It may not be snow, eh?
It could be snow or flood.
Yeah. Susan, what I'm thinking about, because I won't be here tomorrow, for a meeting in Charleston, you send an email in the morning out to, well, actually, Angie, can you send one out to all staff? Explaining that we're not.
Send one to the Lincoln Journal.
The one time I made that nice graphic and I put an asterisk saying subject to board ratification.
Nobody's gonna read that.
First time I did it.
I said, look, he's on the front page.
I know.
That's good.
Filled a nice corner.
When Mr. Midkiff told me earlier today about this, I said, oh, Sean's got a front page.
Well, there's an asterisk though. There's an asterisk. That's all right.
But no, it makes perfect sense to me.
Okay, so you send an email tomorrow, let everyone know
Everybody okay with that?
what we're doing.
Well, let's make a revision then. February 13th, 2020 would be made up on Friday, March 20th.
Thank you.
For just call.
Okay, item D is an out-of-state trip for the following to Raleigh, North Carolina, April the 1st through the 3rd, 2020, to attend A.B. Combs Leader in Me Lighthouse School. And item E, to enter into an agreement with the West Virginia School Board Association to assist in conducting a superintendent search at a cost of $1,650. The agreement is attached. That's it.
All right. I've got a couple of comments about the School Board Association helping us with our superintendent search. As you know, Dr. O'Call was here a couple of weeks ago and went through a scenario, and everyone should now have received a number of documents that Howard and I worked on. Mostly Howard worked on, sent them to me, and I inserted a word here or there. But they pretty well laid out everything that you've seen in those. Now, our plan is that we will have, beginning tomorrow, they will begin to advertise in certain places. And then as the coming week show on that calendar that you've been provided, it'll show when it's going to be in the Gazette, when it'll be dispatched, it's going to be run in to the journal, I believe, 3 different times, and the various places that will be advertised. And it'll be put on the state website tomorrow, so that's going to go out tomorrow. Now, the closing date will be March the 13th, that's a Friday. All these applications are going to go to the School Board Association. They're not going to come to us. We will find out who all has applied on March the 16th. That's the Monday following that, when those will be delivered. And each board member will receive a packet, and it'll have the individuals, it'll identify who they are. One thing that I did ask Howard to do was to asked that they submit their reference letters with their applications, because otherwise, with the schedule we had, if we get all the applications and we try to determine who it is we are interested in, there's no time, it's a short time for us to get any reference letters. So we changed that to where they're going to submit both of those to his office. So when we get our packets, it'll have not only the individuals who are going to be their references, but it'll also have the letters themselves. So we kind of eliminated us having, some of us having to make phone calls and talk to people. They'll already have that done. And then on Friday, March the 20th, I think we all agreed on that evening that we will meet that evening, and we will have had the packets, so it'll give us that that week to look at applicants. You'll be able to see who they are, and we will be provided a matrix, and each one of the matrix that Dr. O'Culler's developed will identify each applicant. So it's going to be on yours. It's going to have John Smith. And so it's already going to be provided for you with his name on there. Here's the matrix, which will be the same for all, of course. And then if you or any of us, when we have our sessions, decide there are other things we want to add, there's going to be spaces where we can add different things that we want to consider that he may not have on his, so we can do that. But that evening, what we want to do is to identify the applicants that we want to interview, because we're going to do our interviews on Saturday, March the 28th. Now, so we want to, but we also on that evening want to do one other thing. We have to develop 10 questions. Now, these are you've gotten these. I was having Mr. Midkiff make us another copy. These are just samples that have been used throughout the state. We aren't bound to use any of these. We could pick all 10 of ours from this group here, but we have to come up with 10 questions that we're going to ask the people that we interview. And once again, it can be from this list, or it could be on Friday night, the 20th. We will go through, so between now and then, you might want to start looking through the 2 ones that really jump out at you. And then, once again, I'm sure that some of you may have things that you want to ask that aren't on this list. But we'll have to come up with 10 questions. Now, what I will then do after that Friday session was I'll let Howard know who the people we're going to interview are, and also I will submit to him the 10 questions that we're going to use. He will then forward back to us. He will get a hold of each one of the individuals, and we will coincide our time frame as to who's going to get interviewed at what time that day. It's anticipated they're going to take an hour for 45 minutes for the presentation and 15 minutes for additional questions and whatever. But so we're thinking about an hour per person. How many we're going to interview, that remains to be seen. But we'll start at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning to do that. But we'll have a packet that Howard will have made for us. And it'll have, once again, they'll already be identified per person. And it will have those 10 questions that we're going to ask those people. And then we will decide at our previous meeting who's going to ask what question, because we want it to be consistent. But we're going to ask the same question. They'll have a brief opening. Each applicant will be able to provide an opening statement. Then we will ask the same 10 questions to everyone. Then we'll, at the end of it, there'll be some closings. We'll have any other things we want to clarify or whatever. So this is the process that we're going to have done here for $1,650. Now, recall that this includes all the advertising. The best I can remember, the advertisement just for the Herald Dispatch and the Gazette was like $800 or $900 just for those 2 newspapers. So when you count all the advertisements, not even, and then the time that they've devoted, Shirley and Howard already have devoted a substantial amount of time. I think this is an excellent bargain. It eliminates a lot of this burden where we get the things in, then we're trying to reproduce them and get them out and all that. And it's done in a very professional way. The questions we decide on in advance. We get them and we ask, we go through that procedure, and it's well done. The way how the school board, Dr. O'Culler, how he operates, very, very professional. So That's, once again, I just wanted to give you these tonight in case you hadn't reproduced them. And then you can be looking at those for the meeting on the 20th. So we'll have a special meeting on the 20th and one on the 28th to do this, if that's everybody's desire. Anybody have any questions about it? Mr. O'Donoghue?
No public consultation. I mean, he suggested that was a possibility. Okay.
Anything else? Anybody? Everybody? Okay. If you think of something as you go through those things, just give me a call or something. I'll try to let you know what you shared with me. But I think we're good to go there. We're gonna go purchase order tomorrow if this gets approved tonight. And then, we have an agreement that, we'll send a Dr. Call. I'll sign it and then he'll sign it and send us our copy back. We'll be good to go. And we'll keep our fingers crossed. The number of applicants that remains to be seen. We'll see about that. Okay, that's all I have. Any questions on any of the administrative items? If not, is that an all yes on all those items?
Yes.
Okay. Finance, could I have a motion for those, please? Mr. Curry and Mr. Wilkerson. And I guess Mr. King.
Yes, sir. Schedule of invoices totaling $871,351.41. There's an attachment, and the invoices are available for public review at the county office.
Very good. I know there was a couple of questions that came up. I think we've gotten our answers to those from the finance office. All yes on the finance item, Ken?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go to personnel motion, please. Carol and Rowdy. Okay, Ray, sorry, Ms. Kirk again.
Thank you. Item A, transfer of service personnel. Item B, employment of extracurricular personnel. Item C, a leave of absence. Please, under item C, number 1, strike that request. That is no longer needed. Sherry Atkins does no longer need the time to be off. Item D, retirements and resignations. And please amend the minutes of the January 21st, 2020 meeting for Ethel Fleming at Arts, Pre-K 8, Secretary 3, for her retirement effective date to reflect June 30th, 2020.
Okay. All right, anybody have any questions about the personnel items? Okay, if not, then an all yes on those?
Yes.
Okay, board members, anybody have anything they want to discuss? Okay. Apparently, we're going to go into executive session. I've seen here in a moment, so moved. Just recall before that, we will adjourn after that, who knows when. But remember now, on Thursday, we'll be meeting here at 9 o'clock for our special meeting. That's more to talk about the budget, and get ready for next year. And then we'll have our regular meeting on the 25th at 1 o'clock next Tuesday. Okay. Okay, Mr. Mickey has asked for an executive. Yes, Mr. Smith.
Before we do that, Fred and I've been working with Brian back here about getting a scoreboard up there for Hearts, and so he said that's coming, and so we're really happy about that, and we really appreciate him and Armstrong for doing that. Those people really deserve it up there.
Just getting waiting on the designs of the Hearts logo and Armstrong logo. The scoreboard should be, Lady told me today, should be ready.
Armstrong's going to have a logo too, aren't they?
Exactly.
I know we've harassed you, but we appreciate you.
I'm glad it's needed. Looking at their scoreboard up there,
Thank you very much.
it's pretty rough shape.
And my name will be bigger than Armstrong.
Oh, wait a minute.
Right corner.
It's football, soccer field, football field?
Football, yeah. Yes, don't you want your name on there too?
Put you in the left corner, J, initials on there.
Give us the mystery band. Okay. All right, Mr. Mickey has asked for a personnel executive session this evening. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move.
Mr. Baker makes a motion at 7 p.m. and Mr. Wilkerson seconded that. Is that an all yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. All right.